Well, I'm thrilled to introduce my next guest. He'll be a regular fixture on the program, delivering some much-needed common sense and holding the so-called progressives, that's what they like to call themselves, he'll be holding them to account. UK political commentator and GB news presenter, Calvin Robinson. Thank you for joining me tonight. Let's start with this. I can't believe I've got the footage in case anybody thinks I'm making this up. A woke preacher believes that when Jesus washed his disciples' feet, he was transgendering himself. Have a look.
I think Jesus transgenders himself on a number of occasions. I think, just a little phrase where Jesus is lamenting over Jerusalem, longing to gather Jerusalem as a mother hen gathers her chicks. I think if you look at the foot washing from John's Gospel, foot washing elsewhere in both Old and New Testament, it's consistently done by women. And yet Jesus takes that on. People often cast that as being the servant's role. It was the woman's role. And Jesus does it and becomes the woman at that point.
Oh, goodness me, there's so much to unpack there. He said God is queer and that we have misinterpreted him through the ages due to our heteronormativity. But just even the notion that washing feet is a female role and that is somehow meaning that Jesus was transgendering himself. Calvin, help me understand.
Oh, Rita, there's so much to break down in this. It's absolutely ridiculous. So first of all, this idea that, transactivists suggest that doing a woman's role makes you a woman. I think a feminist would say, actually, it's not a woman's role to wash feet. Anyone can wash feet. But a transactivist will say, no, washing a feet is a woman's role and doing it makes you a woman. And I think that is wrong. But of course, Christ came to earth and told us to call God our Father. He quite clearly said that God is a father figure for us. I'm not saying God is a man or a woman. People can believe what they like. But to suggest that God transgendered himself, that Jesus Christ changed from a man into a woman by doing a woman's stereotypical role is offensive. And it kind of makes a mockery of Maundy Thursday. I think it's blasphemous, if not heretical. But that's what these woke preachers are all about. So they take theology, which is quite clearly the study of God. Theo from theos, as in God, ology, as in the study of God. And they put the word queer in front of it, as if somehow they're making God queer, or they're putting their own personal identity, which is what this is all about, identity politics, in front of the study of God. That is putting the self before God. That's not what Christianity is about. Christianity is about emptying yourself and taking on board the message that Christ gave us. So it's anti-Christian.
Well, but it's interesting because it seems to be confined to one faith, this sort of behaviour. And unless I've missed it, I don't see too many Islamic preachers or religious leaders from the Jewish community or Hindu community playing these ridiculous woke games.
Can you imagine if someone came out and said that the Prophet Muhammad transgendered himself? I think there would be more than uproar. But I don't think we should go to quite the extremes that they would probably go to, but we should indeed stand up for our faith. And we need more Christian leaders to say, this is wrong, it's heretical, it's inappropriate, and it's not to be preached. And his license should be taken away as a preacher because he's not preaching the word of God. He's preaching his own personal politics.
Now, let's go to the US, and this is important. Lefty Justice Stephen Breyer, selected by Bill Clinton, he's expected to retire at the end of the current Supreme Court term, and Joe Biden seems to be determined to replace him with a black woman. I mean, is it a little sexist, Calvin, not to mention racist, to select a candidate based on factors they have no control over? I mean, what if the best candidate's an Asian man or a Hispanic woman?
I think it's worse than that, Rita. It's not sexist or racist. It's transphobic. Why is Joe Biden not electing a trans person? He's clearly a transphobe. That's what this shows, doesn't it? It's ridiculous. Again, you cannot play these games of ticking the boxes. We should be supporting meritocracy, especially in the Western world. We should say the best person for the job gets the job. It doesn't matter what they're born with. It doesn't matter if they're brown or yellow. It doesn't matter it doesn't matter what religion they are, what sexuality they are, or what gender they are. We've reached a point now where we can say if you are a competent woman, a competent man, a competent white person, a competent black person, it should not matter. If you are good, you get the position. And Joe Biden's taking us backwards with this false logic. It's really stupid. I don't know who cares what color or what gender the next Supreme Court justice will be.
Well, he used that criteria to pick his Veep, and that hasn't worked out so well. Mind you, I think Kamala was his smartest move, because she was any good, should be a massive threat to him right now. But there's even talk that perhaps he could move Kamala to that role, and perhaps the Democrats could get someone a bit more electable into the vice presidency. What do you think about that idea?
I don't think he's going to go with that. I'm still under the impression that eventually he's going to fall asleep and she's going to take over.
No. I mean, that would be and it's a job for life. So if they put Kamala in there, my God, can you imagine what she could do? Now, closer to home for you, interesting decision from Prince Andrew. He's wanting a trial by jury in his civil sexual assault case. This took a few royal watchers and other observers by surprise, Calvin.
Yeah, I think he's really, really trying to profess his innocence here. And of course, under the eyes of the law, he's innocent until proven guilty. But he must face trial, whether he's innocent or guilty. He cannot evade the justice system, as he's been doing for the last few years. But the fact that he wants to take a jury suggests to me that he's convinced that when he puts his case forward, if it's heard fairly, he will get off, because he sees himself as innocent. Whereas if he was under a different system, there might be political persuasions at play, especially with the politics that's going on right now between the US and the UK. So I think he's trying to aim for people, well, they won't be his peers. I would say people of his peers, but they won't be, because he's a royal figure. But he's aiming for people that he can persuade with his own personal story, his truth, and suggest that he is not guilty of any crimes.